Hello and welcome to Original Soundchat, where video game music is a work of art. On each episode, it's our goal to help you learn about two soundtracks from the world of games, as well as the people, stories, and critical tracks behind them. My name is Joe DeVader, and we are brought to you by Anonymous Dinosaur and Rhymes with Asia. It's time to appreciate great OSTs and the games they come from without getting too bogged down in music theory. And this week, it's just me, so we're going to be talking about 2015's SOMA, a dark and depressing struggle to preserve humanity in a digital format, exploring your way through an undersea base filled with hostile biomechanical monsters. Yeah, that's right, everybody, it's just me. This week, Peter has been crazy busy at work, so in order to kind of make this less stressful on him, take some of the burden off, it's just going to be a solo episode this week. What's the theme? Well, the theme is Halloween, because Halloween is this Sunday, and I'm very excited. So, let's just keep on moving. What have I been playing? I ended up having to drop Disco Elysium for now, because it just kept crashing on me. And I lost a bunch of progress twice in one day, and just sort of decided that, I'll come to this some other time when maybe it's been fixed. So I honestly don't know if I recommend Disco Elysium on Switch specifically, even though the portable aspect is perfect for it. I finished Great Ace Attorney though. It's very good. A very, very good pair of games. That being said, I really hope that I never play two entire Ace Attorney games back to back, because the burnout was real by the time I hit like case 2-4. But I made my way through it, and it's fantastic. And if you like Ace Attorney, you are missing out if you do not grab yourself a copy of Great Ace Attorney Chronicles and give these games a shot. They're so good. And they need to make money, or they might be the last Ace Attorney games. Other than that, I've been playing Resident Evil for the first time on stream. In fact, at day of release tonight on October 26th, I will be hopefully finishing Resident Evil. That would be neat. I would love that. But you'll have to tune in and find out if that's actually how it goes. So, let's jump into composer follow-up news. People that we talk about on the show, they're still in the industry, they're still doing great stuff, and we like to keep up with that. Our first two pieces of news, though, aren't really focused on specific composers. The first one being that, as of yesterday at time of release, Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis games are now part of Nintendo Switch Online through the expansion pack. I know a lot of people are not super happy about the price of the expansion pack, and I can't really blame them that much. Pro tip, just get a bunch of friends together and do a family plan, and you should be... That cuts down the cost a lot, considering it's a year of payment and not much more than that. But yeah, I admit the price hike is a bit much. But hey, Genesis games are cool, I guess. I've played one of them ever. But Nintendo 64 games, now those are my jam. Not only are we going to get the obvious choices like Ocarina of Time and Mario 64, but also Banjo-Kazooie, which is very surprising. I don't think anybody actually expected them to be able to grab that one. So hey, that's cool. Meanwhile, there is now a trailer for the Uncharted movie. That's right, that movie is still allegedly real, even though, it could just disappear and never hit theaters. I don't know. Who knows what could happen from here? It's a very fun trailer. The movie looks fun. Tom Holland is Tom Hollanding it up. I will admit that the joke at the end about the accent, Tom Holland's delivery on that just absolutely killed me. So, I don't know. I'll probably give this movie a shot. It looks fun at the very least. And then we have Eric Barone of Stardew Valley fame. He was the composer and the solo developer for most of that game's life until fairly recently. He has announced his new upcoming game, Haunted Chocolatier, Seems to be a very Stardew-like game, but instead of being on a farm, now you run a chocolate store and chocolate factory. So that's pretty cool. You can be Willy Wonka, I guess. We don't know a ton about it yet. We just have some clips of gameplay. But hey, I'm looking forward to it. It sounds fun. But you know what you don't have to wait for if you're listening to this episode? Moonglow Bay. That's the voxel-based fishing RPG that we have brought up a ton of times on this show because it is getting a soundtrack by Lena Raine. It is out today at time of release, so you can go buy it and fish all you want. It's been really, really cool to listen to some of the samples of Miss Raine's soundtrack since the game was, teased. I think just a couple of days ago they put out a video that showcased how the music transitions from morning to daytime, and it just, it's going to be such a gorgeous soundtrack. I'm very excited to sink my teeth into Moonglow Bay, and, just in case we didn't already have enough contenders for Best of 2021, we're so screwed. And lastly, just as a little heads up, if you're listening to this again on day of release, tomorrow there is a PlayStation State of Play. I don't know what's going to be in there. There might be a little bit more information about God of War Ragnarok or Horizon Forbidden West, even though those games did get pushed into 2022. Maybe a Silent Hill. I both beg for there to not be and beg for there to be. Please don't hurt me, Konami. I know that's all you know how to do, but please don't hurt me. Anyways, that's enough of me talking about the news to myself. Let's talk about a game to myself. And not just any game, but a game that, in my personal opinion, was scientifically created to cause you the most emotional harm it can, but in a really good way. We're talking about SOMA, which originally released for PC and PlayStation 4 on September 22nd, 2015. There was an Xbox One release on December 1st, 2017, and no Switch release yet, which actually kind of surprises me, but I'm not 100% sure if the Switch could run SOMA. I mean, there's only one way to find out at some point. I don't know. It was developed and published by Frictional Games. It is a first-person psychological horror game where the player must solve various environmental puzzles while avoiding monsters that wish to do them harm. That's pretty much the whole thing. You're like solving puzzles on some computers or like door stuff and all sorts of stuff while some very, very creepy looking monsters are stalking the environment. The story of SOMA begins in 2015. A Toronto man named Simon Jarrett arrives at a lab to take part in an experimental brain scan procedure. Everything seems fine until Simon appears to black out, and when he awakens, he finds himself in a derelict undersea facility known as PATHOS-II, in the substation Site Upsilon. While exploring PATHOS-II, Simon encounters Catherine Chun, an AI based on a brain scan of one of the scientists in the facility. She reveals that Simon has somehow ended up in the year 2104. She also tells Simon that a year prior, a comet had impacted the Earth, killing almost every human on the planet. The inhabitants of PATHOS-II are the only humans left, if there even are any humans left, and they were only spared by the facility's location at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Their luck, if you can call it luck, has turned around, though, because a supercomputer known as the WOW, W-A-U, has gone out of control in a misguided effort to preserve humanity, and this has only resulted in various robotic monstrosities that believe themselves to be human, some of which are highly aggressive towards other living beings, and as a result of this, nearly no living humans remain in PATHOS-II. The WoW is just this really, really neat concept because you think supercomputer and you think like GLaDOS or something like that. But no, the WoW is like this weird organic looking thing that like spreads out these roots of like this black gunk everywhere. It's really, really neat and unique. A unique take on this sort of thing. But don't worry, all is not lost. Catherine, the real Catherine, not the brain scan that we've been talking to in the game, had been working on a project known as the Ark. The idea was to scan the brains of the survivors at PATHOS-II, load them into a digital environment, and blast the Ark itself into space. This project was, for some reason, never finished, so together, Simon and Catherine make their way through PATHOS-II to find and get on the Ark. So, what is my experience with SOMA? I've not played it myself, but I have watched several people play it. I think back when it first came out, I watched Matt McMuscles and Pat Lavon play it, of the Super Best Friends, back when they were a pair. I have also watched Gargura and Ninomai Inanis, the two HoloLive VTubers. I've watched them play SOMA. That's kind of what led to me wanting to do it for the show. And it's really interesting. I think it is genuinely one of the coolest horror games that has come out in a while. Like, some of the themes it does, some of the story it has. Obviously, its setting isn't totally unique because BioShock exists, but it's a completely different take on the underwater thing than like Rapture from BioShock. It's just such a neat game and has like 2 or 3 scenes that honestly I don't think I'll ever stop thinking about, because they're just so, they hit you right in there, just right in your chest, directly at your heart. If you haven't played SOMA, 100% you should play SOMA. It is fantastic. So let's talk about how that fantastic game came into being. Frictional Games was founded in January of 2007, and their first releases were the 3 titles in the Penumbra series, being Overture, Black Plague, and Requiem. Those came out between 2007 and 2008. First one in 2007, the other 2 came out in 2008. While these games were well received overall, sort of, it would be 2010's Amnesia: The Dark Descent that would really put Frictional on the map. And honestly, in my opinion, Amnesia was one of those games that just sort of launched a small boom of indie horror stuff. Just, it's one of those very influential indie titles that are probably going to be talked about for a long time. Development on SOMA started as far back as 2010 and was built on Frictional's in-house engine HPL Engine 3, which was an upgrade of the engine that had been used to build Amnesia. I also found out that HPL, the engine is named after H.P. Lovecraft. Because, of course it is. The people that made Amnesia: The Dark Descent based some names of their engine on H.P. Lovecraft. That makes total sense. The idea to place the game at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean was apparently just, to quote the Wikipedia article, decided on a whim. Though, from what I could tell, they did clarify that it was an idea that they kind of wanted to try for a long time, just, being stuck at the bottom of the ocean. But other inspirations for the setting and atmosphere included the works of Philip K. Dick, China Miéville, and Greg Egan. The plot's core themes were actually meant to be consciousness and the concept of free will, which, honestly, they really nail, especially because they emphasized this by basing the game's plot around player choice. There are a few moments where the player can make some pretty substantial choices. This was also their way of making sure that even if players did not interact with or could not find the game's audio logs, they would still be able to follow the game's plot. Basically, how the audio logs work is if you find like a body, you can hack into their black box, sort of, so that you can hear their last moments of communication, or you can walk up to various communication modules and listen to one of the just conversations that happened, and it sort of fills in the blanks of what the hell happened on PATHOS-II. Apparently, at some point in development, the game took on some major changes to become the version that we know today, but we didn't really know a lot about these differences until people on Reddit began noticing certain bits and pieces of a code were hidden in various places, and they had been working together to figure out the full code, but eventually one member of the community found it through data mining, which is a bit of a bummer that that's how it got found, but hey, it still got found. And once this code was figured out, it revealed a .rar folder containing a bunch of behind-the-scenes information from throughout the game's development, including early versions of the game's story, a document that was used to brainstorm the game's title, and even a video of an alternate intro that recontextualizes a lot of the game's events. It's really, really neat, and I think that's just a really cool way to put out the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's neat. SOMA was actually officially unveiled to the public in October of 2013, and to advertise the game, 2 live-action shorts were made titled Vivarium and Mockingbird. There are also a series of live-action prequel clips that were released on YouTube shortly after the release of the game. And also, and this is the weird one, supposedly a feature-length live-action film titled Depth, and it was supposed to come out in 2016, but it seems like it never did. So, that's odd and interesting. SOMA reviewed pretty well upon release. It has an 84 on Metacritic on PC. It was praised for its atmosphere and writing, and its monster design, which are really, really cool. Though some critics felt like there weren't enough monsters. I don't know if I agree with that, but, and I guess like a lot of them also said, all the monsters kind of work the same way. Yeah, they do, but like they look cool even if you're not supposed to look at them. Some felt that the enemies interrupted the game's narrative flow though, and so in response in 2017, Frictional added a safe mode to the game that made it so that the monsters were less aggressive and they couldn't actually kill the player. And this decision was largely praised, though, of course, you know, those gamers are gonna gamer and get mad about completely optional accessibility features because their gamers are gonna gamer. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly why. Anyways, within 10 days, SOMA had sold 92,000 copies. And recently, in March 2021, Frictional announced that the game had sold over 1 million copies on PC alone. So this success led to Frictional being able to jumpstart development on 2 new projects. I don't believe we know what the second one is yet, but the first one was actually the recently released Amnesia Rebirth. And of course, SOMA was nominated for 3 awards at the 2015 Golden Joysticks, but this appears to be the only awards show that it really had a presence. It was nominated for Best Original Game, Best Storytelling, and Best Visual Design. All 3, I could totally have seen it winning, but I don't think it did. So, the composer for SOMA is unfortunately not somebody I could find a ton of information about, but let's talk about him anyway. His name is Mikko Tarmia. He was born in 1978 in Mikkeli, Finland. A couple of quotes off his website are pretty much the best I was able to find, and I don't think I can say it better than he could. Quote, "With a background in both classical and electronic music, Mikko has been composing music for nearly 3 decades. His first work was with the Macintosh developer Code Blender Software, and between 2002 and 2005, he worked on 4 games with them. Mikko also runs an independent music label called The Sound of Fiction, which specializes in bringing film and video game music to its fans. The label has also released soundtrack albums for games developed by Frictional Games. You can actually follow Mikko Tarmia at Mikko Tarmia on Twitter. That's MikkoTarmia. In terms of discography, obviously he did those 4 games with the Mac developer, but I never really heard of them. He did do the music for Penumbra, so he has been with Frictional Games for a while, working alongside them, and that means all 3 Penumbra games, by the way, I should clarify. He also did the soundtracks for Amnesia, both The Dark Descent and Rebirth, a game called Overgrowth, which I am not familiar with, and of course, SOMA. Wasn't able to find a lot of historical development research about the soundtrack, but I did find this little blurb about the sound design, which is excellent in SOMA. It says, quote, achieving a realistic sound to fit the mood required audio director Samuel Justice to utilize what he called, quote, the room size system. Instead of processing sounds to make an effect possible, recordings were made of environments that complemented such needs, like the reverb of a large hall. With this system, over 2,000 footstep sounds were captured. Basically, while a lot of Foley artists would record a footstep sound and then they would add sort of reverb to it in varying amounts after the fact, this man went to like big churches and stuff and just did footsteps, and they recorded how they sounded in that specific size of room. That's really neat. That's really above and beyond. I think it was super cool. I wanted to bring it up. All right. I have talked far too much about SOMA for something where I'm the only one here. So let's get into that Critical 5. The soundtrack is interesting. I really like this soundtrack, even though it is, well, you know, it's a very me soundtrack. Let's start with Critical Track number 1, SOMA Main Theme. This song is really neat. It doesn't sound a whole lot like some of the other songs you'll hear on the soundtrack, but I think my favorite part is the like guitar. What'd you call those stings? They seem too long to be stings. I don't know what I'd actually call them. And I think they're guitar. I hope they're guitar, otherwise I'm deaf. They like almost sound like digitized screams. It's just such a nice theme that has this air of sinister to it, but at the same time, it sounds cool. It doesn't really bring across that you are going to be in mortal danger for a lot of your time in PATHOS-II, but you know, it's a really, really neat theme and a very, very memorable sort of melody to it. I like the song a lot. All right. Let's talk about Critical Track number 2. That is Awaken. If I had to guess where this song plays, I would assume it plays when Simon wakes up in Site Upsilon. And it's got this very sad, somber feeling to it because, again, while Simon doesn't really know it at the time, like, these were the last humans. This is where the last humans lived. Humans are essentially extinct now. And this place has been messed up. You can find people like on the walls and stuff with the WoW having sort of enveloped a lot of their limbs, and they talk about how it won't let them die. And it sucks. It sucks so much. Also, just Simon's not home anymore. He's in an unfamiliar and kind of scary location. I think this song kind of reflects that really, really, really well. It's got this air of fear while still being very sad. And I respect that it's able to pull off that vibe. And then let's go ahead and change that vibe up once more for critical track number 3. This is Going Down. A large portion of the game is about going further and further down, closer to the bottom of the ocean. In fact, I believe one of the sites is literally at a depth so low that Simon needs to get like a specialized diving suit or the pressure will crush him. And that's scary. I don't know if you know anything about the bottom of the ocean, but that's where all the scariest creatures on Earth live. They're all terrifying. And if you think they're terrifying in real life, just imagine how they are when a supercomputer has covered them in goo and made them super scary monsters. Not great. Not great. But, you know, this song keeps that tension up there, but it still has that sad feeling to it. Because, again, I said it at the beginning of the show, man, SOMA is a game that is tailor-made to hurt you as a human. And the soundtrack is sort of a big part of that. I don't know. It's really, really good. I really dig this song. But we gotta get to the me song of the Critical 5. So, you know, heads up, you know what to expect when I say that. That's right, you got it. It's critical track number 4, Say Hello to Mr. Akers. This is a monster place. This is where a monster lives. The monster is not nice. And just looking at it sort of makes Simon start to freak out. Oh my god, this song is so cool. It's so well done. This is some Akira Yamaoka stuff if I've ever heard it. Just, chef's kiss. I wish to give it a hug. Just this cacophony of terror. Oh, super good. And then to round out the Critical 5, let's talk about the song that follows one of the most downer endings video games have ever had. Critical track number 5 is Alone. End credits. I mean, you're alone. When these credits roll, it is a genuinely feel-bad ending. I don't know how else to put it. This song nails it. It's this sad, sad piano piece that's just very low-key, and it just gives ample time for you to sort of think about what just happened. Let it sink in. Let the implications of the scene that just played sink into your heart and your soul. I don't know. This song is perfect. I think it's my second favorite song of the game. It's really good. You should play SOMA. I'm going to be spoiling a couple of things in my What Will I Never Forget About SOMA section. You should go play SOMA. It's very, very good. All right. Tracks on the cutting room floor. As always, I have two. First one is Catherine's theme. I mean, she's essentially the secondary main character of SOMA, so I have to bring her theme in here somewhere. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. But I think Cutting Room Floor is a good place for it. I don't think it would have ended up on the Critical 5 at any point. But yeah, it's again this very sort of sad piece, but it also has this air of hope to it because, I mean, she's Catherine Chun. She's the one that was putting together the Ark that was going to preserve humanity in digital form and send it to space and let it float out there free away from Earth. But also just this Catherine doesn't really know what's happened to the station because she was a brain scan from before the Ark was finished. And I don't know, this song is interesting and Catherine is interesting, and I think the song really helps nail it down. And for my other track of the Cutting Room Floor, this is Escape. Yeah, this one's another me song, if you didn't get that impression, first of all. I especially like the very beginning when it's just something is like heaving while chasing you or something. It's another monster song if you didn't catch that. Again, more cacophony, more Akira Yamaoka-esque soundscape. And just, oh, it gets right under your skin. It's creepy. Gets right into your brain. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love songs like this in horror games. They're just the bread and butter of the whole genre. It's great. So what will I never forget about SOMA? Well, like I said, I'm about to spoil some things about SOMA. So maybe either stop listening now or skip ahead a couple of minutes if you don't want to be spoiled, or pause the episode and go play SOMA yourself. Do it. There is a scene in SOMA that I think, despite me never having played it myself, is probably going to stick with me for the rest of my life. You, near the end of the game, you walk into a room and there's a human there. Like an actual regular living human sitting in a chair on life support. And you talk to her, and she talks to you. And you have this conversation, and at the end of this conversation, she asks you to kill her, to turn off the life support, and just let it run out. And once you do that, which is optional, you don't have to do it. This is completely 100% optional. You could just walk away. But once you hit the button to turn off the life support system, she asks you to just sort of stay there with her and talk to her about stuff. Don't let her die alone. And she talks about Greenland and how it was such a beautiful place before, everything got cometed. But the line that really, really hits me every single time is she's laying in the chair and she says, "At least I won't have to turn 30. Yay." And it is one of the most well done, somber, sobering moments in any video game I have ever seen. And it's just great. It's just great. If you haven't played SOMA, you really owe it to yourself to go play SOMA. I'll leave it at that. So, again, happy Halloween. Thank you for your patience with this solo episode with me. You can actually follow me on Twitter at StringPixel, and you can follow Peter on Twitter at PeteSpeakEasy. The video version of this show can be found on YouTube at Rhymes with Asia, and you can find the audio version, the podcast feed, on anondino.squarespace.com. You can also find it on various different podcatchers around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify too, where we actually happen to have a Spotify playlist that whenever we talk about a song in a game, and that song is on Spotify, we throw it into this playlist, which is now, I think, like 3 days worth of music. I'll have a full number at the end of the year. But yeah, that's there, and it's a good playlist and very varied, and you should listen to it. It's fun. SOMA is on Spotify, so I will be throwing these tracks onto the playlist. You can follow the show on Twitter at Soundchat OST for feedback and even suggestions. If you want us to cover a game, you think the soundtrack of the game is really, really good, and you think we should hear about it, you can tweet us there. We've actually been trying to do a lot more fan requests, listener requests during this year, and next year, we're probably just going to keep up the momentum on that. It's been a lot of fun. We've both learned about some games that we hadn't really looked into ourselves in the past. The other thing, though, because this is the last episode of October, hey, our Thanksgiving Q&A episode is coming up. We do that every year in order to sort of ease the pressure a bit during the holiday week so that we don't have to worry about getting a bunch of research done and all that. You can ask us questions basically on Twitter. That's the best place to throw them at us. And we might answer them. And they can be questions about anything. They can be about video game music. They can be about music in general, other media, just random stuff that you think would be interesting to hear us talk about. They could be about the show itself, etc., etc. There's no limit onto what you can ask us unless asking that would get you sent to HR at your job. Then maybe don't send those ones. Anyways, next week, we'll hopefully be back to doing duo episodes as usual. I will be talking about Nobuyuki Shimizu, and Peter will be talking about Hans Zimmer, and I am so excited to find out how the hell we are going to theme those two games together. I hope you guys are ready for some tonal whiplash, because we are about to experience some damn delicious tonal whiplash is coming your way. Oh, man. Anyways, to play us out, I'm not super surprised about this, but there aren't really any fan remixes, fan covers. Usually we'll grab one of those from, YouTube, OC Remix, something like that. But again, not really finding a lot for SOMA, or any, I guess, is the word I should use. So I'm just going to play us out with one of the other tracks from the game. It is called Ark. You can probably guess what it's the theme of. It's the theme of the Ark. And we will see you next week. Thank you for listening. Take care.